speaker of this presentation is Dr. Swapan Paul, who is the Assistant Professor of Department of Homeopathic Metromedica, National Institute of Homeopathy, Kolkata. And also Dr. Swapan Paul is a coordinator for Intermediary Pharmacovigilance Center at NIH, Kolkata. Dr. Swapan Paul has clinical experience of 20 years and a teaching experience of 15 years. He has publications in various national and international peer-reviewed journals, and he has previous experience of working as associate professor in Jawaharlal Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, and he was a homeopathic medical officer under Government of West Bengal. Dr. Paul has been resource person for several national webinars and seminars. We're privileged to have Dr. Swapan Paul for today's presentation on need and challenges of pharmacovigilance in homeopathy. Welcome you, sir, for today's session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for calling me in this virtual platform. So my slides are visible, no?
Yes, sir. They're visible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So good afternoon to respected Dr. K.C. Muralidharan sir, Officer in Charge and Coordinator of Pharmacovigilance Center at National Homeopathic Research Institute in Mental Health, Kottayam. Good afternoon to Dr. Bindu Sharma, Assistant Director of CCRH. Good afternoon to respected Sri KJ John, of one of the speaker today. Thank you, the participants who are present in this webinar. I take the opportunity to discuss or present some information on the topic that need of and challenges in pharmacovigilance for homeopathy. So we start with the presentation that pharmacovigilance concern. It was globally accepted or initiated in the year 1961. There, Dr. McBride, an Australian doctor who wrote a letter to the editor, the Lancet Journal, in which he has suggested that there is a connection between the congenital anomaly known as phocomelia of the babies and the thalidomide medicine which is being used during pregnancy. So this was an alarming incidence for initiation of pharmacovigilance concept worldwide. After that, in Europe, in 1965, the register of thalidomide stimulated the development of a European legislation. In 1966, a pilot study of Boston Collaborative Drug Surveillance Program started, and in the year 1968, that WHO program for international drug monitoring was initiated. The global burden of medications relating to harm. That means why this pharmacovigilance concept has been taken up and initiated worldwide. There was a study from the USA, Australia, and UK in the year late in 1990s. There it was been considered that harm by unsafe medical care was being done and evaluating the informations from healthcare providers and patients on the adverse effect of medications, biological products, blood products, herbals, vaccines, medical devices, traditional and complementary medicine. Thing is that sometimes we believe that pharmacovigilance, this is related to the medicines only, but WHO has find out some other areas where this pharmacovigilance concern is there. That is in relation to herbal medicines, then biological products. Sometimes this therapeutic protein is being used for some clinical purpose or therapeutic purpose. So there, if any adverse effect or adverse reaction is happening, that is also coming under purview of pharmacovigilance. Some kind of blood products like serum is given, platelets is given, so some blood cells are being given. So that is also coming under purview of pharmacovigilance. Vaccination, any effect or any bad effect or happening with this vaccination, that is also coming under purview of pharmacovigilance.
Trixie.
Anything? Any problem?
No, sir. No, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So now the need of pharmacovigilance. Actually, the goal of this pharmacovigilance is to minimize the risk, maximize the benefit. That means whatever the medicine we are using, whatever the process we are initiating, any medicines we are using. So to minimize the risk and maximize the benefit, that is the main motto of this pharmacovigilance initiative. The global aim is to improve the patient care and safety, to improve the patient health and safety, to contribute to the assessment of benefit, harm, effectiveness, and risk of interventions which we are using in our clinical practice, and ultimately to promote understanding, education, clinical training in pharmacovigilance, and its effective communication to the healthcare professionals and the public. So whatever the informations we are collecting in relation to the safety use of the drugs, those information may be transformed or may be given to the other healthcare providers as well as the other stakeholders. The objectives of pharmacovigilance for Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathic drugs. Here we are to monitor the adverse drug reaction or adverse drug events, to monitor the benefit risk profile of the medicines, to create the awareness among the healthcare professionals about the importance of ADR reporting or ADE reporting, to develop the culture of documenting adverse effects of medicines, safety issue of ASU and ACE drugs, to establish and manage a database. That means whatever the information we are collecting, that should be in a database, and this information may be communicated to the other stakeholders. And ultimately, one prime factor has been initiated under Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathic drugs, that is Ministry of the Ayush, that is objectionable or misleading advertisement. This pharmacovigilance concern has been first time taken up by Ayush Ministry. Regarding the major concern of pharmacovigilance, we are coming across different terminologies like adverse drug reaction, adverse drug event, and misleading advertisement. So these three things are the major concern of pharmacovigilance department. If we start with the homeopathic concept that the physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick, to help, to cure, as it is termed, we know in our organ of medicine. So as a physician, we must use such a medicine which is not cause harm to our patient, which will give a gentle cure. That has been narrated in aphorism 2. We know that the highest ideal of cure is rapid, gentle. That means we will not cause harm to our patient, and permanent restoration of the health and removal and annihilation of the disease in its whole extent. And the shortest, most reliable, that means the medicine will be most genuine. That is also a pharmacovigilance concern. Then most harmless way, we must not give any harm to our patient. That is also a pharmacovigilance concern. Regarding WHO, they have given that no medicine without adverse consequences, although these vary in severity and frequency. That means any medicines is not out of the adverse consequences. Then they have also said that no degree of care and caution at the preclinical and clinical testing stage can guarantee absolute safety when a drug is marketed and prescribed to large populations across the country and outside. So practical example is that we are going through the era of this COVID-19. Vaccination has been developed, but we cannot simply say, okay, this vaccination is very much safe. But along with this vaccination concept, some side effects, some adverse effect is also is coming side by side. Although the manufacturer has taken almost this concern about the preclinical and clinical testing stages, even then this kind of things are happening. So if we go with the homeopathic literature and our AD or ADR concept, I know there are a lot many controversial aspect may be arising, lot many these queries may be there in our mind, but we are trying to correlate some facts which are present in our homeopathic literature along with AD and ADR. So regarding the ADE, what is ADE actually? An AD, an adverse event. It is an injury resulting from the use of the drug, and this ADE may happen by overdosing or from medication error. If we say medication error, then how this medication error is happening? Medication error are perhaps that occurring during prescribing, transcribing, dispensing, administering, adherence, or monitoring. That means when we are prescribing, then we are writing on our prescription, and some these pharmacists may not understood what we have written. So NABH, that is National Accredited Board for Hospital, they have initiated one idea that all prescription to be written in capital letter. So that capital letter, if it is written, so it is easily visible, and there is no misconception between the doctor who has prescribed and the pharmacist to dispense the medicine. Then transcribing, that means somebody has narrated the name of the medicine over the telephone and somebody is writing on the paper, so some kind of error might have happened during this writing of this prescription. So if we take that prescription to the pharmacist, wrong medicine may come. So that is also a medication error. Then while dispensing, the pharmacist may not understand the writing of the physician. Sometimes that aconite is written, some pharmacists may thought it as aconitum napellus, or it may be an aconitum, other variety of aconitum. So full name of the medicine to be given. So during this dispensing, some misconception maybe there on this medicine, maybe something else. Regarding administering, that means while we are giving this medicine, that one dose to be given or 2 doses to be given, if it is not clearly mentioned, or if you are not adhering to this concept, then medication error might have happened. Then regarding monitoring of the drug, that means one prescription has been given, advice has been given, and the patient caregiver, they are dispensing the medicine to the patient, and they are not following the prescription or the guideline which is being prescribed in the prescription. So in this way, the medication error might have or may have happened. So miswriting and misreading is also a concern of medication error. So in this way, medication error might have happened in many ways. Now, some conditions which are there in our homeopathic literature, which may be relevant with our this ADE concept in homeopathy. What is that? If we look to the Kane's 10th observation, there we are getting new symptoms appear after the remedy. By definition of AD, that is any effect happening after medicine, that is also considered, or that is considered under ADE. So Kane's 10th observation, I am coming details of that. Then medicinal aggravation, then disease aggravation due to medication error, then symptoms take the wrong direction. So these concepts which are present in our homeopathic literature may be somewhat in relation to the ADE. So the new symptoms appear after the remedy. So that is 10th observation. The condition is that the prescription is unfavorable and wrong one, and the new symptoms appear after the administration of the medicine. After the disappearance of the symptoms, previous original state of the patient appears without any improvement. So management is that proper evaluation to be done in the case and selection of the appropriate medicine. Then medicinal aggravation. So medicinal aggravation denotes the appearance of new symptoms belonging to the medicine after it has been administered to the patient. These new symptoms were never experienced by the patient earlier. These new symptoms developed found in the Materia Medica. That means the medicine which has been prescribed, these symptoms are also present in our Materia Medica against that very particular medicine. The medicinal aggravation denotes that the medicine given was wrong. That means it was not an homeopathic one. Why this medication, this medicinal aggravation happens? That faulty administration of the medicine or improper selection of the medicine and frequent repetition may cause such kind of medicinal aggravation in our patient. Then, if we look to the aphorisms of organ of medicine, then we get some clues like the suitableness of the medicine for any given case of the disease does not depend on its accurate homeopathic selection alone, but likewise on the proper dose, proper size, and rather smallness of the dose. That is in Organ of Medicine aphorism 275. Then, if we give too strong a dose of a medicine, which may have been even quite homeopathically chosen for the morbid state before us, it must not withstand the inherent beneficial character of its nature proves injurious by its mere magnitude. That means if the medicine is homeopathically chosen and it is given in repeated or strong doses, that may also cause some medicinal symptoms in our patients. Then disease aggravation, that another concept may be in correlation with AD, that it means appearance of new symptoms belonging to the sphere of the disease due to improper selection of the medicine and the natural tendency of the disease to progress. This is confirmed from the knowledge of practice of medicine, surgery, gynecology, that these are the symptoms of the disease itself. The patient feels worse both mentally and physically in this case. the case will deteriorate in all aspects as a whole. In this condition, the disease progresses through its usual course without any hindrance. That means disease progress is going on because the medicine was not properly selected, and all signs and symptoms of the disease are increasing either in intensity, frequency, duration, or interval, and the progression of the disease is continued due to the wrong selection or the improper selection of the medicine. If we look to the Ken's 12 observation, there we are getting symptoms take the wrong direction after prescription. So the remedy selected on the basis of external symptoms only, that means symptoms which we are seeing from outside, without considering the patients as a whole and ignoring the totality of the patient, then this kind of things may happen, and the remedy was a palliative one. So in this case, sometimes we need to antidote the medicine and to select the right medicine. So in this way, some literatures are there in our homeopathy which may be in corroboration with the ADE. So ADR, that is a very big concept in pharmacovigilance, but that is also a controversial aspect in our homeopathy, because ADR actually happens with homeopathic medicine or not. That is very difficult to identify and very difficult to understand that causal relationship between the homeopathic medicine and the development of ADR. I agree with that. It is a very confusing and very difficult to find out in homeopathic literature. Even then, we are trying to correlate with some facts which are present in our homeopathic literature along with this ADR. So by definition of ADR, it is that an adverse drug reaction is a response to a drug which is noxious and unintended and which occurs at the dose normally used in man for prophylaxis, diagnosis, therapeutic purpose in case of the disease in question. And there is a definite causal relationship between the drug administered and the adverse drug reaction happened. Now, by definition, you see that occurs at normal doses used. That means the doses which is used for therapeutic purpose, even with that doses, the ADR is happening. But in our homeopathy, we are using minutest dose. That means very minute dose. That dynamization concept has come so that adverse event or adverse effect or that injurious effect in our patient doesn't happen. That was the concept of dynamization, so that this we are using this potency or the smallest dose of the medicine. So we are having some aspect in relation to ADR in our homeopathic literature. If we can correlate that dose related adverse drug reaction and homeopathy, it represents an exaggeration of the drug. That means dose related adverse drug, it represents the exaggeration of the drug's therapeutic effects. This type of adverse drug reaction is usually predictable but sometimes unavoidable. It may occur if a drug dose is too high, that means 2 overdoses is prescribed, if the person is unusually sensitive to the drug, etc. So this is dose related adverse drug reaction. And in homeopathic literature, if we find in Ken's first observation, it is mentioned that a prolonged aggravation and the final decline of the patient may happen. Then long aggravation but final and slow improvement may happen in our patient after prescription. So what is that first observation is that a prolonged aggravation and final decline of the patient. The reason behind is that the antisoric was too high, too deep acting, then potency was too high in this case, and the case is an incurable or the doubtful case. So that has happened, and the final declination of the patient has happened. Then if we look to the second observation, that is long aggravation but final and slow improvement, then the reason is that potency was again too high. Reversible organic changes was there in our patient, so that's why this observation has happened in our patient. So in this case, we can somewhat wait and watch accordingly. So this was some correlation with our homeopathic literature, AD and ADR. But again, I am saying it is not definite one, but we are trying with our level best that any ADR concept is there in homeopathy or not, or whether any AD concept is there in homeopathy or not. Now we are coming, was Hahnemann aware about the adverse drug reaction or adverse drug event? Whether Hahnemann was aware about these incidences or not? If we look to the organ of medicine, then we will be getting some clues regarding that. Dr. Hahnemann has mentioned in aphorism 276 that a medicine, even though it may be homeopathically suited to the case of the disease, does harm in every dose that is too large, the more harm, the larger the dose. That means the larger the dose, the more harm will be there. And by the magnitude of the dose, it does more harm, the greater its homeopathicity. That means how much homeopathicity is there. That means totality of symptoms is perfectly matched in our patient. Homeopathicity is up to the mark, and even then we are prescribing the medicine in high doses. Then the injurious effect will happen in our patient. So aphorism 276 gives that clue. It does much more injury than any equally large dose of a medicine that is unhomeopathic and in no respect adapted allopathic to the morbid state. That means he has mentioned again that homeopathically chosen medicine will cause more harm than unhomeopathic medicine in a larger dose. In aphorism 276, he has given that clue. Again, if we see in aphorism 276, there also he has mentioned the very analogous medicinal disease, that is that ADE concept. So medicinal disease produced by the vital force stirred up by the excessively large dose of the medicine. When this medicine is given in excessively large dose, it is being stirred up in the parts of the organism that are most suffering and most irritated by the original disease. Which medicinal disease, had it been of the appropriate intensity, would have gently affected a cure, rise to an injurious height. The patient, to be sure, no longer suffer from the original disease for that has been homeopathically eradicated, but he now suffers all the more from the excessive medicinal disease and from the useless exhaustion of his strength. So now the patient is suffering from the medicinal disease. So the symptoms developed from the overdoses of homeopathic medicine may also happen in relation to ADE. So these concerns are there in homeopathic literature according to Dr. Hahnemann. Then adverse drug reaction and idiosyncrasy. That is also a part of our concern in pharmacovigilance, that idiosyncratic patients are there in our clinical practice, and Dr. Hahnemann has already said this is an otherwise healthy corporeal constitution. So if this correlation can be done with this idiosyncrasy, that idiosyncrasy results from the mechanism that are not currently understood, and this type of adverse drug reaction is largely unpredictable. This is unpredictable. Beforehand, we cannot know whether the patient is idiosyncratic or not. They may show some exaggeration of the existing symptoms, of the symptoms of the patient symptoms. So examples of such adverse drug reactions include rashes, jaundice, anemia, or decrease in the white blood cells. So some examples are there, adverse drug reactions or in idiosyncratic patient may happen. These reactions tend to be more serious, but typically occur in very smaller number of people. It is not widely happening, but in a small number of people, those who are idiosyncratic may develop such kind of adverse reaction. Then affected people may have genetic differences in the way their body metabolizes or responds to the drugs. So exaggeration of the symptoms in this idiosyncratic person, again, it varies from person to person. Then adverse drug reaction and idiosyncrasy. In aphorism 116, Dr. Hahnemann has said some symptoms are produced by the medicines more frequently, that is to say, in many individuals, others more rarely, or in few persons, some only in very few healthy bodies. This is a peculiar corporeal constitution which, although otherwise healthy, causes a disposition to be brought into a more or less morbid state by certain things, which seems to produce no impression and no changes in many other individuals. So aphorism 170 says that this is a peculiar corporeal constitution. So identifying susceptibility and ADR. So knowledge of patient susceptibility can control the prescribing decision and reduce the risk of ADR. So if we can identify beforehand the susceptibility of the patient or idiosyncratic patient, so the knowledge of this susceptibility or idiosyncratic can control the prescribing decision and reduce the risk of ADR. A patient's medication history, if there is any history that this medicine earlier he has taken and this idiosyncratic person or susceptible person has developed some kind of ADR earlier, so this patient's medication history will identify any case of previous ADR and therefore preclude re-exposure to this drug. In other cases, susceptibility factors such as age, gender, pregnancy status, and ethnicity can help predict the risk of this ADR occurring. Then homeopathic and iatrogenic diseases and ADR. That is also a concern in our homeopathic pharmacovigilance, that long continued use of any medicines, both crude and potentized form, is sure to produce a chronic artificial disease if the potency or the mother tincture is being used for a longer period of time. Then chronic artificial disease may develop in human being. In case of iatrogenic disease caused by potentized homeopathic medicine, we are to note carefully the symptoms that were present before the treatment of the homeopathic physician and the symptoms that have appeared during the course of treatment. So this iatrogenic disease is another concern. Homeopathic iatrogenic diseases, in this case, we must not prescribe medicine unless the medicinal symptoms completely disappears. But if the condition is very much worse, then instantly on the basis of present totality, we may need to prescribe. In many cases, placebo alone may be sufficient to cure. It is under the purview or the decision by the physician himself whether placebo will be sufficient to the patient or not. If cure does not happen after placebo, that is waiting for a certain period of time, the original symptoms may be prominent again after the disappearance of the medicinal symptoms, and a new prescription is to be made covering the totality of symptoms left in the patient. So again, after a period of placebo time, if again the symptoms is existing, not going off, then on the basis of the presenting totality, we can prescribe to this patient. So Naranjo criteria in ADR, that is, Naranjo criteria is a very popularly known algorithm which is prevalent in many ways, and it is adapted by our system, this Naranjo criteria. So something about this Naranjo criteria is that the Naranjo algorithm or Naranjo scale or Naranjo nomogram is a questionnaire designed by Naranjo et al. For determining the likelihood whether an ADR is actually due to the drug rather than the result of the other factors. Then probability is assigned by a score termed definite, probable, possible, or doubtful. That means on the basis of score with this Naranjo algorithm, we are describing that definitely there is a causal relationship, there is a possibility of causal relationship, or causal relationship is doubtful. That is depending on the score system. The values obtained from this algorithm are often used in pioneer peer reviews to verify the validity of author's conclusion regarding the adverse reaction. That means the adverse reaction which is happening according to the author, that can be corroborated, that can be matched with the algorithm of this Naranjo criteria. Now we are coming to some ADR or AD reporting type. That means how this ADR AD reporting, what type of ADR AD reporting are there. Spontaneous reporting. This is a very crucial part in our pharmacovigilance system, that spontaneously we come up with our reporting system. That means whatever we are observing in our clinics, in our hospital, or in our these sectors, or any healthcare professional. So all these things to be reported spontaneously. So spontaneous reporting is a very crucial part in our pharmacovigilance concern. So until and unless the reporting is done, we are helpless. We cannot frame a database in relation to any medicines regarding to this adverse event or adverse reactions. So another type of reporting is aggregated reporting. That means the adverse reaction or adverse event which is not so serious, which is unlabeled, which is not so harmful for a patient against a particular medicine, that can be jotted down over a period of time, and that may be as a whole that may be transmitted to the higher authorities, that is pharmacovigilance centers like national or these intermediary or peripheral centers. So as a whole, or aggregating the information of a particular drug, that can be done when this adverse drug reaction or event is not so serious. Then expedited reporting, that is individual case study report, which is very serious, to be reported immediately. Then any kind of suspected, unexpected, serious adverse reaction, if it is happening, then it should be reported immediately to the peripheral pharmacovigilance center or intermediate or national pharmacovigilance center. These are all coming under expedited reporting system. Then clinical trial reporting system. So nowadays India has become a very clinical trial hub, and that PGTs nowadays, that PGTs in homeopathy, they are taking up some this topic and some clinical trial they are doing. So in their study also some clinical in their clinical trial some adverse reaction or some adverse event may have happened. So that also to be reported to the pharmacovigilance center so that we can get some more information, some information for our database. So in this way, some reporting can be done to the centers designated by Ministry of Ayush. Here we get a definite this criteria of WHO and UAMC causality categories. So Upasana monitoring system and WHO, they have found some criteria to term whether the event which is happening out of a medicine, which is it is certain, or whether it is a probable or likely, whether it is a possible, or whether it is a unlikely, whether it is a conditional or unclassified, whether it is unaccessible or unclassified. So in these categories, they are framed along with the definite criteria that is available in our literature. So now reporting backdrops. That means just now we have said spontaneous reporting is very crucial part for our pharmacovigilance center. So that is a challenge. So what is the challenge is that the major weakness of spontaneous reporting system by clinician is under-reporting. That means the physician, they are seeing lot of patients, they don't have so much of time, so they are not reporting. So they, due to lack of time, they are not able to report all the incidences happening from against the medicine, that is any kind of ADR or AD if it is happening. So it is going under-reporting. In general, if we see that 5 to 10% of overall adverse event is reported actually, then overworked medical person do not always see that reporting is a priority. They not consider that reporting system is a very much priority, but we consider that it's a very priority for our pharmacovigilance concern. Even if the symptoms are serious, that may not be recognized as a positive effect of the drug. So the physician may not or identify that okay, this has happened due to the particular medicine. So that way also the reporting backdrop may have happened. Then something relating to misleading advertisement already has been given by our previous speaker regarding that this regulatory authority. Still, I'm just going that ASCI, that is Advertisement Council of India. This is a very big concern. Is they have a WhatsApp number, so misleading advertisement can be directly reported to them. A report they have published in the month of March 2020. There they have narrated some information relating to the misleading advertisement, and on reporting to them, some misleading advertisement were immediately withdrawn from the advertisements. That is 77 advertisement promptly withdrawn from the advertisement. So this is a big concern, this ASCI, so regarding this misleading advertisement concern. So there is a list of disease condition where as a physician we cannot put any advertisement that we can cure these diseases, and these are the medicines which are very much curative for this medicine. So there is a 54 drug this disease condition listed, and that there we cannot put any kind of advertisement. Then now we are coming to the need of pharmacovigilance awareness program. Why this pharmacovigilance awareness program is needed? So awareness plays a key role in our approach improving access to the healthcare system. So through this awareness program, more and more people may be involved, more and more healthcare professionals may be involved, so that we can disseminate this information of pharmacovigilance to them, and they can voluntarily involve in our system. We seek to empower the community and the patients. That patient must also, and the community people will also be aware that after taking medicine, if they are developing any kind of effect, so that may be communicated to his physician or to her physician, so that information can be gathered. We intend to award the medical professionals with appropriate tools, information and skills, so that they can make high quality informed decision on prevention, treatment, care and support. So this is also helpful, this database, for the medical professional also. Then we intend to award the stakeholders like drug manufacturing unit, individual researchers. They may not be an homeopathic researcher, they may be researcher from other fields, they also can be aware about this ID or ADR or this database information present in our database, so that can be disseminated to them also, and they can take the appropriate measures in their clinical practice and their researches. Then, who are the beneficiaries of our this system of this awareness program? So paramedical staffs, they are benefited. Stakeholders like drug manufacturing units, individual researchers, they are benefited. Patients are benefited, as a whole community is benefited, and we the medical professional, we the doctors and the physicians are also benefited with these informations. Now we are coming to the challenges. So there are some challenges in our pharmacovigilance concern. We know that pharmacovigilance activity is not that activity where we are getting the rewards or incentives if the physician is reporting their ADR or AD, so there will be get any incentives. Again, it is a voluntary service. This service is for our social cause. This is a noble cause, so we can disseminate our information to the center. So if we start with the administration, that it is a funded project and some administrative structure is needed to continue with this program. So this is a challenge for other system, maybe a challenge for other organization, but under Ministry of the Ayush, it is not a challenge for us, because we are getting every help. We are getting all sorts of infrastructure from our ministry to continue with this program, but it may be a challenge for other system or other organizations. Then health professionals, that we have already mentioned, that doctor population relationship is very low. So also doctors, they are seeing lot many patients. They are not getting so much of time to disseminate their informations or to jot down the information those who are experiencing during their clinical practice. So that remains a challenge. Then self-medication, this is a big challenge. That means that self-medication means the patients sometimes feel that earlier I had taken belladonna for my headache, and this time I am developing headache, so belladonna will help for me. So no, it is not that that thing, that belladonna if earlier had helped the patient, now this time it will help. So self-medication is a very much challenge. So we should not practice any self-medication without consulting with a physician. Then over-the-counter drugs. So some patients or some person, they take a writing name of the medicine, and they are going to that this dispensing authority, that means pharmacist, and the pharmacists are giving the medicine. So this should not be practiced. So pharmacists also be taken in this pharmacovigilance concern, that they should not make the habit of selling the over-the-counter drugs unless it is prescribed by a registered medical practitioner or physician. So over-the-counter drug selling is a very big challenge for our pharmacovigilance concern. Then web-based medication, it is a very handy information in website. We are getting many information which may be correct, which may not be genuine. So the person, those who are taking those information, going to the this pharmacist asking for medicines, those, that is a big concern for our pharmacovigilance, that web-based medicine should not be prescribed widely until we must consult with our physician so that we can get the correct medicine for us. Then counterfeit drugs. Counterfeit drugs is that not genuine drugs. That is a big challenge. In homeopathic, we are getting look-alike medicine. That means if a potency is given, so whether it is belladonna 30 or whether it is an aconite 30, that we from the external eyes we cannot identify this. So if the pharmacist is not honest enough, then this counterfeit drug, that is not genuine drug, may be a possibility. So not genuine drug is a very big concern for us for pharmacovigilance. Not getting the proper medicine to the patient, not giving proper medicine to the patient, not genuine medicine to the patient, then it remains a pharmacovigilance concern. Then confounding illness. Some confounding illness is there, that is some complex diseases are there. Then sometimes we need to change the medicine frequently. So the multiple medicine may have been prescribed in an incurable cases, or in a case where the pathological condition, irreversible condition has been done. So a particular medicine is given, so we cannot blame a particular medicine for developing such kind of adverse event or adverse reaction. So if confounding illness, we some get some challenges. Say which medicine is the culprit one, which medicine is the responsible one. Then clinical trial monitoring, that we have already mentioned that some clinical trial in the PGTs or some individual researchers, they are doing clinical trial with our homeopathic medicine or medicine of Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy. So some kind of adverse event or adverse reaction might have happened in their clinical trial. So that should be disseminated, that should be informed to the authority, that pharmacovigilance centers, so that clinical trial, they are not sometimes they giving this information that they are developing in their clinical trial in relation to the adverse reaction or adverse event. So these kind of challenges we are meeting in our pharmacovigilance center, right? So now I am coming just in brief that pharmacovigilance setup in our Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani and homeopathic drugs. We have three-tier network. One is National Pharmacovigilance Center, Intermediate Pharmacovigilance Center, and Peripheral Pharmacovigilance Center. National Pharmacovigilance Center is the All India Institute of Ayurveda present in New Delhi. And Intermediary Pharmacovigilance Center, we have 5. In Ayurveda, we have 2. That is National Institute of Ayurveda and Institute of Postgraduate Teaching and Research in Ayurveda, that is in Gujarat. Then National Institute of Homeopathy for Homeopathy, National Institute of Siddha, National Institute of Unani Medicine. So these intermediary pharmacovigilance centers are there. We have Peripheral Pharmacovigilance Center. In short, now as on date, we have 74 Peripheral Pharmacovigilance Center. In Ayurveda, we have 35, Homeopathy 13, Siddha 14, Unani 11, and Shwaripa has 1 Peripheral Pharmacovigilance Center. Then operational framework of this pharmacovigilance center is that National Pharmacovigilance Coordination Center is assigned to coordinate the country-wide pharmacovigilance program for Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani and homeopathic drugs under the aegis of Ministry of Ayush. Then other centers like this intermediary and peripheral pharmacovigilance center, these centers are to take up the work of reporting, documenting, analysis and causality assessment regarding the adverse event which is happening in our system. Then regarding the pharmacovigilance reporting, that what to report, all suspected drug related adverse event and misleading advertisements in the prescribed proforma will be reported. You can report, any healthcare professional can report the suspected ADR or to the PPBC or IPBC. Where to report, already you have said PPBC, IPBC. Now I have to give one information that this reporting system is also there in our website, that is www.ayushsuraksha.com. That is the designated website for pharmacovigilance concern. There you will be getting all sorts of informations are there regarding to the reporting system. There are downloadable forms are also there. Online reporting system is also there in ayushsuraksha.com. So one can reach to that website and that can be taken up. Then what happens when this report is being done? So this report is handled very confidentially, and intermediate pharmacovigilance center, they are analyzing the causality assessment and the information which has been collected from the these peripheral centers or intermediate centers. These are all sent to the next higher level, that is National Peripheral Pharmacovigilance Center. In all over the country, in India, we have in homeopathy we have 13 centers. Likely in Noida, we have centers in Kerala, we have center in Gudivada, we have center in Guwahati, then we have center in Kolkata, Mumbai, Bhopal, then we have center in this Howrah, Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu, then Mangalore, Manipur, Tripura. So we have these kind of centers. Wow. So intermediary pharmacovigilance center, their activities is that ADR, AD reporting if there is there. Then collecting the information from the peripheral pharmacovigilance center, then causality assessment is done. If it is happening, then we are sending the reports to the Ministry of Ayush, that is National Pharmacovigilance Coordination Center. So I am showing you some format which are present in our system. It is available in this www.ayushsuraksha.com. And ultimately, the conclusion is that homeopathic practice should be under strict vigilance. It is not that homeopathic medicine has no this adverse event. it may be there, so we must be very much vigilant in our practice. It helps to improve the system by adopting safe, more sufficient, and up-to-date information as per the modern research. It is an absolute necessary to ensure public safety and to promote the healthy development of the homeopathic system of medicine. All the stakeholders of homeopathic system of medicine need to be educated through intensive training regarding pharmacovigilance aspect of the drugs. So that way we can have these pharmacovigilance concern, and these are important for our homeopathic system also. The quality issue and the safety concern of the homeopathic drugs have been raised from the various sources. Ministry of the Ayush felt it is necessary in the interest of public health to oversee the impact of Ayurveda Siddha Unani drugs consumed by the people from the perspective of the safety profile. That means safety profile we must be developed. Pharmacovigilance initiative will facilitate the detection of potentially unsafe Ayurveda Siddha Unani homeopathic medicine and misleading advertisement for taking up regulatory action against them. So in this way, the pharmacovigilance concern is very much important for us. So thank you so much. The designated website www.ayushsuraksha.com. This is the email ID for IPBC, ipbc.nih.kolkata@gmail.com. So thank you once again for the organizing committee of National Homeopathic Research Institute for mental health. So for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share the information in relation to the need and the challenges we are facing in pharmacovigilance department, and some aspect in relation to the ADR or AD and our homeopathic literatures. And thanks to the all participants, those who are connected today, for their patient sharing. And we request to all of you that you get the information relating to the pharmacovigilance department. So we earnestly request to all of you that you come up and come up with your informations, and you report any kind of adverse drug reaction or adverse drug event or any misleading advertisement to your nearest center, which may be PPBC or IPBC. So this information to be handled confidentially, and it should be reported to the higher authority, and regulatory action will be taken. So it is a teamwork. It is not the teamwork only the ministry, or not the teamwork of the coordinators itself. It is the teamwork of the stakeholders of the homeopathy, all the participants, those who are connected today, all the physicians in Ayush system of medicine, that they should come together and they should devote themselves or their time for the noble cause for the society, and to develop a good database, the information relating to ADR or AD, so that we can take the regulatory action. Thank you all. Thank you very much for connecting today. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for an insightful presentation on need for and the challenges for pharmacovigilance in homeopathy. If you have any queries, you can drop it in the chat box, or as sir has shared his mail ID, you can just direct your queries to Dr. Sapin Paul sir's mail ID, and sir will revert back to you. Yeah, to conclude today's session, I would request Dr. R. Bhuvaneshwari, Associate Professor, Department of Psychiatry and Senior Research Officer at National Homeopathy Research Institute and Mental Health, request Madam to deliver vote of thanks and concluding remarks. Please, Madam. Over to you, Dr. R. Bhuvaneshwari.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege and thanks for the opportunity to give the vote of thanks for today's webinar. First, I would like to thank our Madam Dr. Bindu Sharma, Assistant Director, CCRH New Delhi, for her inaugural address. Next, our Dr. K.C. Muralidharan, Officer in Charge, for his presidential address, and he is also a coordinator of peripheral pharmacovigilance at NHRMH Kottayam. And I thank you, sir, for coordinating for such a webinar, and it was a very useful. And today we had two excellent expert presentation. As Dr. Bindu Sharma Madam said, it is very need of the hour, and everyone should be aware of all this also happening with the IE system of medicine and about the adverse advertisements, and everyone should report it after getting insight in this webinar. And I would also like to thank Sri KJ John, Drug Controller and Licensing Authority, Government of Kerala, for his detailed and excellent presentation on regulatory aspects of manufacturing and sale of homeopathy drugs. It was very useful and it was very nice presentation. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time and sharing your views in this webinar. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our sir, Dr. Swapan Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of Medramedica, NIH, Kolkata, Coordinator of Intermediary Pharmacovigilance Center. Thank you, sir. And it was a very outstanding and very nice presentation on your need and challenges of pharmacovigilance in homeopathy. And last but not the least, all our participants who have participated today and your patient hearing. And thank you one and all in this platform for making this webinar successful. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. And please note that all our presentations, webinars are available at NHRMH YouTube channel. You can visit the channel and